Hey improvisers, did you know your scenes could become hilarious sketch comedy? Join Improv to Sketch, a live online workshop from the Sketch School on November 1st and 2nd, where you'll learn the secrets behind turning your favorite one-time improvisations into scripted sketches. Taught by a longtime head writer and director at the Second City, this online weekend workshop is fast, fun, and limited to just 8 participants. It always sells out, so snag your spot now at thesketchschool.com. That's thesketchschool.com. Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Suzi Barrett. My guest today is the always delightful Ify Nwadiwe. You know Ify as one of the stars of Dropout, most notably from Dimension 20 and Actually, and improvisers in LA know him as one of the members of the Big Team. We had an amazing conversation about all different aspects of his journey and his insights about improv, and I think you'll really like what he has to say here about the subjectivity of game and how everybody sees different unusual things and kind of how to work with that in a scene. And in part 2, we really deep dive into his work on Dimension 20, and he blows my mind with this sort of next level version of if this, then what play that kind of broke my improv paradigm. Part 2 is available by becoming a subscriber. You'll go to yesalso.supercast.com, and once you are a subscriber, a reminder that you can connect this to your regular podcast feed. So you don't have to keep going to yesalso.supercast.com to listen. You can just connect it, and then all the Part 2s we've ever done and all the Q&As we've ever done will just appear on your regular feed. For more Ify, make sure you check out the new season of Actually on Dropout, and check them out on the Big Team at UCB. Right now, they are the first Friday of every month at 8:30, a double billing with the Smokes, another fantastic team of vet improvisers, many of whom have been on the pod. And with that, here's Ify. Ify Nwadiwe, the legend.
Hello.
Not a myth.
Maybe.
Maybe.
You know, that's the earliest joke for me. It's like, I'm unsure about you. Every dad, that's his favorite Ify joke.
Because you're Ify.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Mm-hmm. Okay. I wasn't even making that connection. I was just doing like a man, myth, legend.
Oh, yeah.
Britt.
No, I picked that up. And I was like, oh, that's very funny. Because it's like, oh, myth. Yeah, I can be a myth.
It can be. Yeah. Let's start at the beginning of your improv journey.
Yes.
I've known you for years, but I don't know how you got into all this game.
Man, very similar to, I literally started with Matt Apodaca in high school.
Oh, wow.
I was a senior. He was a freshman. And they always had, comedy sports, pitched to us. But, ASB always, they hop on the intercom. They say what they can. And I think the earliest description of it was like, this is like if jocks told jokes. And I was like, oh, I don't care about this. And then the one year I was actually listening, because honestly, they could have said this. And now knowing that I've had ADHD this whole time, they could have been saying that. And I just didn't hear it. But they were like, oh, it's like Whose Line Is It Anyway? And I loved Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Right.
And so after that, I was like, I have to go do this. And so I went, auditioned, luckily succeeded because that was my senior year. So if I didn't make that audition, then I was done. But I always was like a clown, class clown, goofy guy. Uh-huh. Loved making people laugh. Like one of my earliest memories was as a kid, tasting hot sauce for the first time. I think I was a toddler or something. And I was like kind of freaking out about it and everyone was laughing and like doing it. And I was like, oh, like I like that.
In fact, hand me the bottle.
Yeah, hand me the bottle. Yeah.
I can heighten this bit.
Yeah. I can put my body on the line for laughter all the time.
That's so funny that's a core memory in you. Talk about having the soul of a comedian. Mm-hmm. That you were pretty young to be burned by hot sauce. Yeah. But that your memory is not how painful the hot sauce was. It was the joy of making people laugh. Yeah. That's really telling. You've landed in the right place.
And that I think about, I haven't brought that up for a while, but every time I do think about that where it's like, one of my earliest memories is being able to make some people laugh and enjoying it.
Yeah.
And
because in the hands of another toddler, that would be a traumatic memory.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I accidentally ate it, my mouth was burning, and
And that's why I don't eat hot sauce ever.
Right, exactly.
No, I like spicy foods.
Exactly, yeah. So you're in comedy sports, you make the audition.
And Alex Carrill, who was the kind of like head advisor person, who was really dope about being like, well, this is your senior year, so we're going to get you in as many shows as possible, because they pretty much like overcast, and people kind of do some shows, some people don't, some people do, and he was very much like, well, this is your senior year, this is your first year, we're going to get you in every show.
Oh, that's sweet.
And so he we just did it, and Matt was just a comedy nerd, also from that age already. Like, I'll never forget, I still hold this over his head because it's so funny, because I remember they were listening to Dane Cook, and they showed me Dane Cook, and at the time I was really into Dave Chappelle, so they showed me Dane Cook, and they were like, oh, this is so funny. I was like, yeah. And it was one of his, I think when he did the San Francisco ain't nothing tender about the tenderloin bit,
I don't know it.
Oh man, it was basically Dave Chappelle. He was doing a special in San Francisco, and he was just talking about how scary the tenderloin is. And he's like, they call it the tenderloin. He's like, ain't nothing tender about the tenderloin. And that was so funny. And I play it for Matt, and he kind of is like, okay.
Oh my God.
and I feel like that is also my earliest bomb, right? Whereas the feeling of being like, this is going to be funny, and just getting nothing for it.
Bombing by proxy.
Yeah, exactly.
Playing someone else's joke. And you're like, man, Chappelle sold me out.
I know.
He told me that was funny. It's so funny, the cross-cultural exchange of here, you listen to Chappelle. No, you listen to Dane Cook.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It
just truly ends, opposite ends.
Were you and Matt already friends before comedy sports?
No, I met him through comedy sports. Yeah.
So how was it to do those shows? Do you remember being nervous or excited, or how you're diving in kind of trial by fire there, because you're performing then, right? You don't have a lot of training then.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was extremely excited, because I've always wanted to be an actor. I always ever since seeing all that, and the 90s were ripe with child actors.
Totally.
You had the Kyla Pratt and everything. You had the Fresh Prince, Cosby Show. So they seeing all these kids acting. I was like, oh, I really want to do that. But my dad's from Nigeria and was like, no. He's very much and
what did he want you to do?
He wanted me to do something that would make money, like a lawyer, doctor.
Yeah, something certain.
Yeah. Not only something certain, but I think also something prestigious, I think, in their eyes, because, they're immigrants, they come here, and every other Nigerian is a doctor, and they, love to brag to their friends. And I really didn't get that until I really started making it, which we'll probably get into later. But at the time, he was very much okay, what's this other thing you're doing? And also I had ADHD, so my grades are starting to slip, but I was hyper focused on improv. I was passionate about it, and it was fun. And as far as nervousness, I wasn't nervous at all, because I think with short form, there's so many mechanics to it that I was more focused on making sure I was remembering what I said, so that I can reverse, and remembering details of the scene, so that when I do genre replay, I can fit the genre.
Yeah, that's a great point too. Is that just for a quick sidetrack?
Of course.
In a lot of those short form games, like Forward Reverse or the Alphabet Game or Genre Roco or Replay or whatever, they're kind of set up protecting the actors. You don't have to necessarily be funny on top of it or clever on top of the game. If you just achieve it correctly, you'll get credit from the audience.
Yeah.
If you just go in the order of the alphabet and just do it, they're impressed. So it's like, it's still a show even without you coming up with like a clever scene idea or something.
Yeah, and I think it helped me when I eventually came to long form because it allowed me to focus on being grounded and making sure there's a scene that makes sense. Because, I think, in the 101s and, early improv classes I've seen, everyone's so focused on being funny that sometimes that comes before the kind of basic having a scene that makes sense, that having a scene that isn't just like trying to run towards a joke, but like that starts off grounded and heightens.
Yeah.
And I think in those games, you're like, okay, this scene has to make sense or the whole thing falls apart. If everything's like wild and crazy and wacky, and it can get there, but you just need a baseline reality.
Yeah, we have to know what's going on and what we're looking at so that we can find the funny things funny.
Yeah, and our relationship, the status between each other, where we are, what's going on, because if we don't have that information and we're trying to redo it in a different genre, then we have nothing to map to.
Right, that's right. What's the starting material that we are going to map other things over?
Yes.
So did you feel like you were nailing it in these shows? Like, were you kind of a fish in water with short form right away?
Yeah, just to go back to, the comedian soul thing, I felt like I found my purpose. I felt like it finally all made sense because, in high school I did, shot and disc, and I kind of was someone who like hung out with everyone.
Shot put and disc is discus.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
I was like, and I was in it and I was doing pretty okay. I don't think I would have gotten a scholarship, but I definitely think I could have like really competed if the stars aligned and me getting like my training down. But I was definitely like I was good enough to where my coach was mad when I left for comedy sports. But yeah, I hung out with everyone, just down from the nerds to the like black kids to I was sitting at the, track kids table, and I just always felt like I was this like chameleon, and I didn't really know who my like people were. And then like I started doing comedy sports and I was like, oh, this is I get it now. I get like, because how in high school everyone had like their thing, you know, and I felt like I didn't have a thing. I just did a bunch of stuff, and then this was the moment I was like, oh, this is my thing. So I was like fully committed and I was super excited.
Yeah. And you are a unique intersection of types.
Yeah.
You are nerdy. Yeah. You are sporty. Like you have all these different elements to you. So to find something that's like a net that covers all of those and allows you to use that knowledge and use those skills. And have you always been a really physical player because of your sportiness?
I think so. I think the kind of like my like comedic heroes, especially like the Martin Lawrences and the like Eddie Murphys, and like they were always so physical in their, like I used to love like the slapstick comedy, like that always. So because of that, I think that was always funny to me, just kind of putting yourself out there and doing these big moves and being real physical. And I think the added bonus of then being like, strong enough to where if in a scene, if we want to lift someone up, I can do it. And in a scene, I very much like really enjoyed doing that.
And I'm sure, any team would be so stoked to have that. Like that's a superpower on a comedy sports team. Like stand on my shoulders. We'll play the dinosaur together, you know?
It's so fun.
So let's jump ahead. Did you like present to your dad, now I want to do this, or did you kind of hold off on that?
He never really came to the comedy sports stuff. I don't think he ever seen comedy sports. What he did come to is the teacher who was kind of in charge of comedy sports was taking over the plays, and he did As You Like It, and he wanted all of the comedy sports people to audition. He was like, you all should be doing this too. And so I got cast as Duke Senior, and then my dad saw that, and to give him a credit, because I'm gonna be taking a lot of it away at times. At that moment, he was like, "Oh, I see this. I see you're really passionate about this." And Miss Steinberg, the co-director and the drama teacher, came up after and was like, "Hey, if you really want to do this, I think you're a great actor. If you go to Long Beach City, I know the director there. I can put you in touch and all that." And of course, I proceed to do none of that because I had ADHD. And as soon as I got to like community college, and there was like no real bearing on like having to go to classes, I was like not going. Like for someone who took an L on community college, I got so many W's because I was just withdrawing because I'd see, oh, I'm going to fail this, let me withdraw, because I thought it was like a cheat code, not realizing that on your transcript, yeah, they're like, all the W's don't look good. And then I think it finally made, so at the time I was kind of just in this kind of like loop going forward where my dad kind of figured, he was like, okay, he's not taking school seriously enough. I started working for the LA County Register Recorder full time. I end up working.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You were one of those people like at the like federal building or whatever, yes, sitting behind the bulletproof glass, like taking deeds and
yes.
Wow.
Oh yeah. That's so, then from there, I was also performing with the teacher who, Lars Hansen, which was funny because there was like a couple months where I was still calling him Mr. Hansen when we were on a improv team together, and he was like, stop it. And I was on a team with him, and we were performing at the Long Beach Playhouse and like down in San Juan Capistrano, but this was like out of LA, improv.
This was a comedy sports team?
No, it was just like an independent, short form comedy team, and where we would essentially like beg black box theaters to be like, hey, after your like last show of the night, can we just like rent for a show? And we'd like put up money, invite the same kind of handful of friends out, hoping that maybe some people from the show would come through. And then eventually we found the Stages Theater in Fullerton that the lobby was performing out of and was doing like full improv nights. And that was great because now it took the marketing aspect and the scrabble together aspect. Like we were still like trying to get people out to shows, but it was like a unified front.
So once you're tied into like an existing theater that had an existing night, it's like they're doing the marketing. Yeah.
And it was more so this team, the lobby, that was kind of doing this night and these shows at this theater that then evolved into a whole, it was called Spectacles Theater Engine, and they were doing that. And around this time, I was just in that loop where I was working full time. I was like trying to like still go to school, going to night classes, and then doing improv. And I just kind of felt like I was just like not doing anything. Like the improv was the highlight, but I felt like, and definitely in my own head, and this is like my early 20s, I was like, I'm one of the funniest people in this whole thing. This is it. And then I listened to WTF with Donald Glover, and that was the one where he was like, there's not that many black people at UCB. He was like, and I think he like named Marshall, Colton, and like maybe one or two other people. And I was like, oh, that's where I need to be. And Matt sent that to me. He was like, I think you really should listen to this. And I think he meant it in like, oh, this is very interesting. And for me, it was like lit a fire where I was like, oh, it like reminded me of everything. It was like I was asleep because, in looking back and really kind of knowing what I know about myself now, knowing I had like ADHD, knowing that my dad really, anytime I wanted to because I wanted to do comic book art, I wanted to, and then my dad was like, no, doctor, lawyer, engineer. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll go to ITT Tech and become like do computer science. And he was like, nope, no trade school. You got to go to a 4-year if you want to do that, do that. And it just kept like, and like, when you're young. And then I think I also had an element of like no real understanding of what my path was because I was like disassociating and there's so much going on. So when we got to this point, I think it was like essentially like the kind of like bottom of that, where I was just going to be in this loop of just these things.
Working this menial job that doesn't give you any passion or satisfaction.
Yeah.
You still aren't impressing your dad because community college didn't go great.
Yeah.
You're like scrabbling together shows to kind of get a little bit of joy. And then boom, you hear this podcast that like lights up golden path. That's to me, it feels almost like the bat signal going up. It's like, okay, this is what I'm called to do.
Yeah. And it was like a killer combo because my girlfriend at the time was doing Little Shop at, funny enough, the same theater, but in the like theater company part. And I went and I watched her show. And then it was like the combo, like boom, boom, where it's like, oh yeah, I want to act. I want to do comedy. I want to do these things. That was like my biggest joy. It's something I've wanted to do as a kid. And I immediately, and so she was like, well, I can talk to the director and we'll get you in the next one, next show. And I did the best little Christmas pageant ever at Long Beach Playhouse. And then I met some folks there and I was like, hey, I'm trying to get into acting. What do I do? Because when I was there, I was like, oh yeah, no, I want to do screen acting. Like stage acting's cool, but I want to do screen acting. And there was this guy and he was like, oh, you just get yourself a copy of Backstage and then go and just like
there's always that guy. Yep, he's got a Ben Nye makeup kit in the trunk of his car. He's got a comp card with like different headshots all in one thing.
Oh yeah. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I signed up to Backstage and then I and then I started doing UCB. And so I was like, I remember I was working this job and I didn't have a car. And so I had to take the Metrolink down to LA for my class to make it in time for, I think it was like a 7 p.m.
Like a 7 to 10. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was my first one was Jill Donnelly.
I remember Jill.
Yeah. And I remember the train I had to catch left at 4:30, but I didn't get off till 5. So I had to leave early and have my buddy cover for me just so I can make it all the way to LA, take this class, and then take a series of buses back to Garden Grove where I lived at the time to make it home by like 1:32, sleep, wake up at 5 a.m. to go back to work.
Wow, Ify, that is dedication. That's like a real like Sylvester Stallone training montage of improv.
Yeah, and so I would just get to work the next day and just be so jazzed because I'm working towards something. I know what I want to do. I'm so like
it's wild, right? Like the adrenaline that carries you through. You're like, I don't need sleep anymore.
Yeah.
I have purpose.
Exactly. Where like before, and that's when it made it clear to me that before there was just, I didn't have purpose. I was just existing. And now I'm like, oh, I'm working towards something. And I actually, what was funny enough, back in when I was doing short form, I did go to like, I think years before, like, maybe when I was like 2021, I saw UCB and Lars, Mr. Hansen, was talking about how great UCB was, and I was supposed to go for my birthday and I didn't go, which if I would have went, I think it would have hooked me for sure.
Yeah, sliding doors.
But didn't go. And I went straight to the house. This is the hubris of a 21-year-old. And I just go straight. I don't even look at any of the shows. I don't look at any of the performers. I just go straight to the frequently asked questions. How do I perform here? And then it was like, oh, you need to take the classes. And I was like, oh, I've been doing improv for 3 years. I don't need to take a class.
What if I don't need classes?
And I'm so glad that happened because I feel like if I entered the community at that time, especially with that mindset, I would not have gotten as much as I gotten out of it when I did start. Because when I did start, I came in being like, I've been doing short form for so long, and we just started dabbling with long form when we started doing stuff with the spectacles, and we were practicing because I think one of the guys on our team and Matt took a class and kind of were like, we love long form, fuck short form, And I was like, okay, let me go in with an open mind. I was like, I'm gonna go in. I was like, yeah, this is level 1. And yeah, I've been doing improv for so long, but I was like, I'm sure there's still things I can learn. Like my whole whole psyche completely different, and so I'm like, I'm here to learn. I think I'm going to learn so much from this. And I think there was like the element too of like, someone who I looked up to at the time, Donald Glover, being like, I learned so much here. It allowed me to go and be like, then I don't need like, I level 1 is fine. So I went in,
that's great,
ready to soak and ready to just do whatever it took.
Ready to soak. The t-shirt.
Yeah. That's look, when you want to go, when you're ready to do improv or go to BYU, you're ready to soak.
You are ready to soak. When you're a middle-aged woman on a bath bomb commercial, you are ready to soak. Yeah. When you're a dish soap that can get the grease off, ready to soak.
If you're a stained white shirt and you got some, got some kind of like stain treatment on it,
you're ready to soak. Yeah, all of these things.
Yeah.
But you make such a great point that like, and it's cool that you recognize this about yourself in a very humble way that you're saying like, oh, I was kind of being a knucklehead at 21, a little bit arrogant maybe.
Oh yeah.
And it's cool to recognize that. I do think it's important for people who are just starting out in this, or for people on the other end of the spectrum, to recognize like, you're never done learning. No matter how much experience you have in one aspect, a new teacher can unlock different things, new method, a new school, a new whatever. Yeah. So the 100%. Humility is huge.
And it's very important for you to actually take in what's being said. If you are coming in, to kind of be like, okay, I'm just going through these beats so I can get to the point where I can audition. You're not going to get as much as the person who's like, I'm going to learn everything from these 4 classes and see what I need to audition.
You got to be ready to soak.
Yeah.
And also, even if you are like a super accomplished person, or you've got years under your belt, there's always like reps are never wasted. Yeah. You can get in a class and be playing with people of different levels and kind of learn a new way of playing, because you're having to adjust and take care of scenes in ways that you didn't when you were coming up on your first time in classes.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who like, did sports, and someone who like is playing beer league hockey, like, LeBron still runs the basics, Kempe and Quentin Byfield, they're still doing the same basic level 1 kind of drills and then working their way up to the newer drills, because like, people always ask me like, since I do stand up, they'll be like, which do you like more? And I was like, I don't even like, they're different things. I like them equally. I like them a lot, and they're different things. I compare stand up to painting a picture. You're just refining it and you're just making it right, and then you're putting it on display at the gallery which is a stand-up show. And I look at improv as a sport. You are practicing, you are honing your skills, and then you're going on stage and putting it all on the line. And it may go your way, it may not go your way, but you leave it all up there and then you go to the next one.
Right.
And I think when you think of it that way, then you realize there's never anyone who doesn't need to take a level 1, because it's just going through the basics again, getting a refresher of the basics, hearing someone else's philosophy on the basics will do so much for you.
And doing the reps and doing them with different people and drilling, it is drills sometimes, like drilling your mental acuity and your flexibility in the moment. But the sports is a perfect analogy. You don't see like the NFL just not practicing. Yeah. They're like in practice on Monday. Yeah. They're like watching tape and then getting out there again.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's great. When you started your long form classes, I know you were like jazzed and you had your purpose. In terms of improv and process, did you find it to be an adjustment from short form? I know you said that short form had given you that understanding of like, we need to get our who, what, where out. We need a base reality. But what other things did you notice?
Oh man, I feel like it really was just kind of developing who you are, your character, a bit more than you would in short form, right? Because short form, you kind of only need like the bare bones, because you're just going to do some kind of goofy mechanic on top of it. And in this, like fully grounding it, understanding, my thought process in the scene, what I want. And, but it was pretty, like it didn't really get like super duper like intimidating until 201 and introducing game, because then it's, I think, and I'm curious to what you think about this, where I think when I first started out and I was learning game, I was going into it being like, there's one game. There's only one. I got to find the one game. There's one thing. There's the one weird. There's one game, and doing improv as long as I have now, it's like, oh, there's never been just one, because also like weirdness is subjective.
Yeah, I think this is a huge lesson. Like the misconception that finding the game means that there is one game, that there's a right and a wrong answer, which is not true. And it's something that I think people learn and relearn kind of their whole career.
Oh, it's something that I didn't really learn until like I was like actively performing, because I think it causes a lot of things when you think there's only one game. One is weirdness is subjective,
right?
So and that's why we kind of like restate the game so that the other person, our scene partner, knows what we think is weird.
Restate the game meaning like if you're the voice of reason character, it just kind of calling out what you as the performer think is weird. So like, I'm sorry, Barb, did you say that you collect bones and you keep them under your bed?
Yeah, I keep bones under my bed for the bone fairy. And
wait, hold on, bone fairy?
The bone fairy. Yeah, and then that lets your scene partner know, okay, this is what we're playing.
Yeah.
But when you're thinking there's only one game and you have it in your head and your person is calling out something and you're like, that's not the game. Then it immediately kind of prevents you from yes-anding, because you as a performer are disagreeing.
You're like doing this like tug of war as the two actors. Like, I think this is unusual. No, I thought this was unusual.
Yeah. One terrible thing I think I used to when I was in class is if they tried calling out the game and I didn't think it was the right one, I would do the thing I thought was weird again, and then they would still be, because they're like, well, I gave you the information, so they're playing the game that they've called out, and you kind of drop the ball because you tried to restate the thing that you think is weird, and the moment you realize, oh, I did a workshop, and that was the thing that I kind of I said, and it was kind of, when you're like talking about improv and you just say it, even though it's not something you've ever like actualized, you're like, because there was like two people in the scene and someone kind of did that. And I was like, oh, I see. And they said, because this is the game. I was like, yeah, well, there's more than one game to the scene. It's whatever the weird thing they called out. So because they were letting you know that was that. And they're like, oh, and I was like, yeah, there are more than one.
Yeah. And even within one unusual thing, different comedic minds will see it in a different way.
Yes.
So like, the unusual, that was a terrible example because keeping bones under your bed is like, there's not a lot of nuance to that.
Yeah.
But like, let's try to let an unusual thing happen organically.
Yeah.
Like, let's try to, you and I, to start a base reality.
Yeah.
And as an unusual thing appears, then we can like as performers dissect what all the different ways you could see it as unusual.
Yeah.
Hey honey, how was work today?
Oh man, it was rough. The boss, he's just been on my back.
Fred, Fred is a personality type that I've been reading about where he is, I think he's a malignant narcissist. It's all about him. It's all about he can't see your perspective. He has no empathy.
Yeah. What made you start reading about personality types?
Oh gosh, I have this thing where I want to learn everything. I want to get in there.
Okay.
I want to learn everything.
Oh, so, okay. Now that makes sense. Now I see why there's a pasta maker here, because you've never made pasta before.
Well, I'm gonna start.
Okay. Yeah.
Right after I finish my puppetry course.
Oh.
And I'm gonna go pierce Edna's ears next door. I just got a piercer.
Oh, next door. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like I would like pasta now. It seems like you got a busy schedule.
I can throw some in. I just got to learn how to do it, and that won't take me very long.
Oh, so you bought all the things, but you haven't learned it yet.
The buying is going to motivate me. That's something I learned from Anthony Robbins.
Okay. Yeah. No, it seems like you're buying a lot of the things, but you haven't done much of it. I mean,
I'm gonna do it. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
What was the shiny object you saw right away that you?
I think the like detail in the malignant narcissist explanation was like, oh, this is something like that feels new. And then when you were like, I want to learn everything, that felt fun, because I was like, oh, then this feels like this is like, when you saying that made it feel like in the reality of the scene, this was like brand new. Like I came home and this is the first time you said something like this, and now there seems to be a bunch of stuff that you've picked up.
Yeah. When you first said, like, why are you reading about malignant narcissists? My comedy brain went, oh, it'd be fun if ironically, like, I was a narcissist. So like, but I don't know I'm a narcissist. And I got so tangled in the weeds by the end of that sentence. Like, I'm like, how do I make it like I was trying to lob, like, I read because I'm interested and I want to learn. But then as soon as you named pasta maker, I was like, great, this is so much easier and simpler. I literally am just learning
so
everything.
Funny, because even in that sentence when you're like, I want to learn. Yeah. To me, it was like, oh, it seems like, you're just like a constant learner.
Yeah. And you know, any one thing can be a dozen different things. It can also be like how the person says it. It can be, in the hands of another player, maybe it's like, honey, wait, hold on, are you okay?
Exactly.
Like it can be about the emotional quality, it can be about the facts of the scene. The only thing that gets you astray is this idea of like, oh, there's a right answer and a wrong answer, and if we don't get it right, then we're not doing the scene right or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to kind of get the hang of game and heralds? And that's a whole other ballpark.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I felt comfortable in my second 401. My first 401 was with Eugene Cordero, who at the time I thought hated me. I was like, oh
no.
Yeah, I was like, which is because I think I'm just
person
I know. And I was like, he must hate me. I think I'm screwing everything up. And then I did and then doing it again, I think it kind of clicked, because I think I went into 401 really like expecting to just like it be the same, and 401 is a little looser. It's like more of like a practice group where you're coming together and you're learning new things, but really it's more so about just getting the reps in. And I think because of that, I focused more on, and I think at the time too, I was trying to like impress all my teachers. And that's probably why I like overthought how Eugene felt about me. And then I think by the second one I was like, oh, let me just like get reps, because I think by the second one I was kind of doing indie shows and still feeling like I wasn't getting enough reps, and doing like practice groups still feeling, and I was like, okay, I just need to get the reps. Just gotta go. And then I think once I stopped thinking about anything other than being better is when I kind of started to get the hang of it, and when I started to kind of like, and I think what also helped too was I think when you're in student mode, when you're trying to impress the teacher mode, you're trying to like initiate and trying to drive the funniness. You're trying to be the source of the funniness. And then by the second one, I was like, let me just be supportive. Let me like, how can I like elevate these scenes? How can I help my scene partner get their thing off? Which is like why I've always had the philosophy where it's like, if someone is complimenting me on like my improv afterwards. It's like, you were so funny, you were great. I'm like, that is because my teammates have uplifted me in a way that made me seem funny. They've played the game with me. They've pipped me out. They've, gave me gifts, alley-oops, all that. And that's why this person is like, this is funny. And then if someone is complimenting a teammate, which seems like this, the first way seems humble. The second way is like, that's me. Like I am like, I'm doing my job and like giving them the gifts and the tools to be funny in a scene.
Yeah. Which way do you prefer? Do you prefer being the one receiving the alley-oops and dunking, or being the one tossing balls to all your
I love
cohorts?
tossing balls. I love just kind of, there's just something fun about the setup of like a joke or a funny thing that you just know is going to like heighten whatever they're doing, and then they take it and run, and it just like, and then you just see the back line electrify because now it's so crystal clear. That's the best feeling in the world, like being that like last spark.
Does that mean that you prefer being a voice of reason character, or does it just mean like, even if you're unusual, like you like being a peas in a pod and heightening together and seeing where it can go?
Yeah, I feel like I think voice of reason is very, very fun for me, even though I do oftentimes play the crazy person. But like voice of reason, there's just like a funness to kind of like really just stumble in the ways that they need you to really kind of light off their big like goofiness, like the unusual thing, and just giving them more work, or just like when you're doing that like tag roulette of just kind of like putting the unusual person in a series of scene and just finding a way to heighten and go left, like that's always fun.
Yeah. The heighten and go left, meaning like, we're heightening through the steps of a traditional heighten. And then your brain comes up with some like outside of the box heighten. That's
exactly that, where it just goes a completely unexpected way that you wouldn't have thought, but then the more you think about it, you're like, oh, it does work. It's like, this is just a different version.
Yeah, I love finding tags from the back line, and I love participating in tag runs, and I love like a beat the hell out of the game is my happy place. And as someone who late in life is discovering that I have ADHD, I wonder if that speaks to that.
Yeah.
Do you find that is your own happy place, and that's why?
Oh yeah, it's just fun because like you just are just milking it for everything it is, and there's something like, there's like a fun safety net in it, to where even after you hit a point where it can't be milked anymore, when the audience notices that's funny to them, they're like, wow, they've tagged this so much that this is kind of just like stopped. And then there's like those moments, I think, in improv where the curtain is pulled back a little bit, and like they see everyone as performers for like 2 seconds, and then you just jump into the next scene. It's like that always gets me.
Yeah. Speaking of seeing someone as a performer for 2 seconds, you and I did a show a few months ago at Dynasty Typewriter.
Yes.
Was it a Fuck This? It was a Fuck This Month show.
Yes.
And the last scene of the show, we were like demons in hell or something.
Yeah.
And you made a move as this demon, a very physical move. It was awesome. You like grabbed a chair and went to sit on it the same way like someone could rotate a chair and sit on it backwards.
Yes.
You did that, but also put your leg over it, like almost like a dance move.
The nerds call it the Riker maneuver, because that's
really?
how Riker always sat in chairs in Star Trek.
Great.
Yeah.
You did the Riker maneuver.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden kind of like backed off your demon character a little bit. And we were all like, why is Ify suddenly like under committing? He's like the most committed player. Yeah. And you had this like, it was 2 seconds where we saw the performer on your face instead of this committed character. And it was like, what's going on? And then slowly during the scene, we realized that you had torn your pants on that move.
So funny, because to me, it was so loud when I did it, I thought everyone heard. And so it made it even funnier that no one was getting it. And I thought people were playing into it. So I was just kind of like playing along, but also being like, oh man. And it was just like so funny for the moment to finally reveal it, which, I knew was going to happen and I was ready for it to happen.
Yeah, the show ended with Jeff like slowly rotating your legs open to the audience.
And then you just see my which I'm wearing like leopard silk boxers, which was so goofy.
The boxers you were wearing made it look like this was all planned because they were such like costume boxers, satin gorgeous, like animal print. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oopsie. It was so funny. That was so fun to do. The outcome was so funny. It was like so interesting seeing how many people online was like, is he okay with this? Is this fine? And I was like, to me, it's almost funny because it's like shows just how much, I guess, people don't know how close we all are and how the level of just like, because like there was a move which you wouldn't probably be able to see on camera where Jeff did look at me before that, and it was very much like a confirmation, and then that's when he went to do it. So even in the scene we had this go time moment, like
a silent check-in, performer to performer, like consent.
Exactly. And I think we often do that in improv, and it's so very covert that like for me I'm like, yeah, of course, but also I'm someone who I was like, people will never understand the depravity of comedy that we had in post-pandemic UCB. I was naked on that stage so many times. This is nothing compared to the ways I've been exposed on stage of my own volition.
Do you mean literally?
Yeah.
Oh, tell me about this. For part 2 of this episode, go to yesalso.supercast.com. If you like this podcast and you want double the content, head over to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribe. You can also help us out for free by subscribing to us on YouTube and talking us up to your improv communities. If you have a question that you'd like us to answer in one of our Q&A episodes, or a topic that you think would make a great bonus episode, put it in a 5-star review. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A very special thanks to our producer, Ryan Rosenberg, audio and video editor, Brian Kessler, and Britt Faye, who does our marketing. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Suzi. That's not how podcasts work. They won't even see us. They will listen to us, so it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.